I am the true heiress, and also the golden canary. After being recognized by the wealthy family, I quickly dumped my 2 sugar daddies, but when I returned home, I found both of them there. One was my fiancé, the other was my brother. It's over, this isn't coming home, it's walking into a trap. Let's break up. You didn't even give me that turquoise necklace I liked last time. It's just not fun anymore, to be honest. You're nowhere near as good as my ex. He was way more generous than you. The dialogue box shows 187, the silent, bad-tempered but skilled sugar daddy, is typing, out of professional ethics. I waited for him for a while, but the other side only replied with a question mark. I scoffed, thinking he's still putting on airs with me. I'm done serving you. Straight to the block list. Pulls out another phone, opens WeChat to the super generous ex-sugar daddy who's about to get engaged. I'm sorry. It's because I'm not good enough for you that fate kept us apart. The reply came instantly. Ran out of money. How much do you need? No. What's the use of money without love? Darling, by the time you read this WeChat message, I'll already be on a flight to Milan. Why Milan? Damn, does he even have a point? Blocked and blacklisted. New achievement unlocked. Kicked 2 sponsors in 1 hour. Because I'm a canary who flew up the branch and became a phoenix. Damn it. I really am the long-lost heiress of a wealthy family. My beauty, grace, noble virtues, and soul have all found their rightful place in this billion-dollar mansion. My long-lost biological parents will officially announce me as the eldest daughter of the Smith family at this grand banquet. Under the blinding spotlight, I lift my skirt, step onto the high platform, and offer a perfectly poised smile. My father declared that I, Lydia, am the true heiress of the Smith family. The former fake heiress, Ophelia, will now be the second daughter of the Smith family. Ophelia and I embraced each other. As she leaned close to my ear, she whispered in an extremely low voice, "Sister, don't compete with me." The words instantly echoed through the banquet hall. All eyes turned to the pair of sisters on the stage. I gasped, covering my mouth with one hand. Sorry, I forgot to take off my mic. I reached behind my neck to remove the earpiece and casually tossed it aside, smiling brightly at her. Come on, keep talking. What are you trying to grab? Ophelia turned her face away, not daring to speak anymore. My mom stepped in to mediate. Lydia, don't take it to heart with Ophelia. She's just not very bright, but she's not a bad person at heart. They had raised Ophelia for 20 years. Of course they would favor her. But that's how my feud with Ophelia began. I was wearing a mermaid skirt and suddenly couldn't move my legs when going down the steps. Looking back, my skirt was stepped on. Ophelia smirked at me and withdrew her foot. I suddenly lurched forward, falling off the stage. I desperately covered my face. It doesn't matter how I fall in public, but nothing must happen to this face that captivates thousands. After all, when I get back up, I'll still be beautiful. But the pain I imagined didn't come. Instead, I fell forward into a firm embrace. The crowd around us fell silent. His hand was still resting on my waist. Ophelia came running down with a cheerful voice. Brother, you're back. Ophelia's brother, damn it. Isn't that my brother? Then a light hug wouldn't hurt, right? I wrapped my arms around his waist and theatrically looked up. Bro, I'm your long-lost biological sister. Eyes wide with shock. Isn't this my 187, few words, bad temper, but amazing in bed sugar daddy? The man's eyes were cold as he lowered his head with a faint smirk, lazily spreading his arms. Had enough hugging. Aren't you going to get off, dear, little sister? The words, little sister, seemed to grind between his teeth. It hadn't even been half an hour since Charles and I broke up. I think he probably hasn't moved on from this failed relationship yet. Then I'm dead. The first words that blurted out of my mouth were, "What kind of brother are you?" Charles pressed his lips into a tight line, his face cold as he roughly pulled me down. His lip movement seemed to say, ex-husband. Why wouldn't he count as a brother? My mom came over and introduced me. Charles is the son of my parents' close friends. His parents died in a car accident, and he was raised by the Smith family from childhood. The difference between him and his adopted son is that he came with a massive family fortune, and once he reached adulthood, he established his own household. Charles and I shook hands politely. Ophelia watched me warily from the side, her eyes seeming to say, "You're not allowed to seduce him." If she ever found out that her precious brother had secretly kissed me until our lips were raw and gone through several sets of bed sheets with me, I was the first to withdraw my hand, my fingertips brushing past his palm. I let out a light, tsk, and raised my hand to my forehead, casually sweeping aside my bangs. Charles curled his fingers inward, simply chuckling softly. He handed over an exquisite velvet gift box. A gift from my sister, lying on the smooth. Dark velvet was that antique turquoise necklace. Ophelia said she wanted one too. Charles speaks with high emotional intelligence. Whenever you recognize your birth parents, I'll send you a gift too. This made Ophelia stomp her feet in anger, her high heels flattening into flats. She ended up leaning against the wall, lifting her foot and howling in pain. In the tightly curtained lounge, I stood before the full-length mirror, ready to put on a necklace. The hand reaching behind my neck was suddenly pressed down by someone. The mirror reflected Charles's face, so arrogantly perfect it was infuriating. He lowered his head to fasten the necklace for me. His fingertips carried a chill, occasionally brushing against the nape of my neck. I couldn't help but flinch forward as he tightened the necklace behind me with an expressionless face, turning it into an exquisite instrument of torture. This time I truly didn't dare move. A 30 million necklace. If you enjoy playing like this, you could use a tie instead. Only then did the man in the mirror raise his head to look at me, the corners of his lips curling into an indifferent smile. How can you be both obedient and disobedient? I wanted to surprise you, and now you're breaking up with me. The necklace clasp had already been fastened. His hands still gripped my shoulders, his gaze fixed straight at the mirror, boldly and ambiguously scrutinizing me. And what exactly did you mean by that breakup reason? I don't understand why. Isn't it just the literal meaning? He threw the phone to me. Doesn't it just mean you won't give me the necklace? Anything else besides this line? He also said you're not as big as my ex. I meant big-hearted. Missed the hearted part. Hee, awkward. No wonder he saw it and sent me a question mark. Blame me, a poor man suddenly rich, typing excitedly with trembling hands. I took a deep breath, straightened my back, and turned to look at him, an aura of dominance radiating 2 meters and 80 centimeters. So what do you want? Let me tell you, Charles, I can kneel and apologize to you. I'm the kind of person who rises to the occasion when facing the weak but yields when confronting the strong, flexible and resilient, capable of achieving great things. Charles lifted his eyelids slightly and said coldly, I'm not interested in your kneeling apology. What I want is, he seemed to think of something, his Adam's apple bobbing deeply, I want you to keep seeing me. To be honest, I don't want to. I'm already the eldest daughter of the Smith family. I want to focus my future business on relationships with younger men. My brother is very handsome, but I've had enough of that and want to switch to younger brothers. I tried to provoke Charles with my words. Could it be that you have some kind of fetish for sneaking around? Charles lowered his gaze, pinched my chin with 2 fingers, forcing me to look back at the mirror. The woman was trapped in the man's embrace. He slowly lowered his head, as if to bite me, but stopped just by my ear. If you want to make it public, I'll tell your parents about this, at the latest. Our wedding will be set within 6 months. What kind of decent woman gets married right after striking it rich? I still want to make up for the wealthy second-generation life I missed out on. No need, bro. I just prefer relationships that thrive in the shadows. Charles chuckled softly by my ear, his lips accidentally brushing against my cheek. The way he nuzzled me made me want to kiss him, but I held back. A woman shouldn't just focus on the man in front of her. She should also consider the men yet to come. I came out of the lounge after touching up my makeup and happened to run into Ophelia, who was wandering around. Why is your neck red? Charles leaned against the doorway, wiping the corner of his lips with his fingertip, his eyes smiling. I did it. This person is really speechless. At that time, he grabbed my neck and kissed me so hard I couldn't breathe, only letting go when I was gasping for air. Then, with a triumphant smile, he said to me, if you want to kiss me, don't hold back. It made me so angry I wanted to hit him. Ophelia glanced at me, then at him, and suddenly had an epiphany. Lydia, my brother has always doted on me since we were kids. Look at how he beat you up. Ha ha ha. I looked at Ophelia with disdain. Was she really acting like a fool, or was she genuinely one? My mother asked me to go meet my fiancé. What the hell? I have a fiancé. Don't get the wrong idea. He's here to break off the engagement. If he didn't want me, why would he want you? Ophelia rolled her eyes while holding a glass of red wine. Before my mom pulled me away, she shot back at Ophelia. If anyone would want you, I'd eat my hat. Ophelia stomped her feet in anger. Second floor of the banquet hall. Uncle Smith, the engagement between me and your daughter really isn't suitable. In fact, I'm preparing to immigrate to Milan. I was holding my mother's arm, walking toward that group of people. I turned and walked away as soon as I heard those words. My mother, confused, followed me in circles and eventually pushed me into the crowd. Simon, this is my daughter Lydia. You two should get to know each other. A tall man in a silk shirt turned around and met my gaze. I resignedly said, "Hi." Simon narrowed his eyes slightly, raised his wine glass, and took a gentle sip. My dad continued asking him, "Are you going to Milan?" Without even glancing aside, he replied, "No, you misheard." Simon snapped his fingers from the waiter's paused tray. He picked up the wine glass with 2 fingers and gently handed it to me. "Miss Smith, weren't you already on a flight to Milan? Did you have to make an emergency landing?" I took the wine, clinked glasses with him, and lowered the rim of my glass. "Young Master Smith, you misheard me. I'm also going to Hunan." Simon stared at me with a grin. "What a coincidence. How does that song go again? You and me, together, living in the same global village." I laughed with extreme awkwardness. Don't judge Simon by his lack of morals. He was actually my first love. We were together for over half a year, but as soon as I heard he had a fiancée, we broke up. But Simon was truly my white moonlight, the kind you can't say anything bad about. After we broke up, every time the moon was full, he'd send me money for no reason. I just didn't delete him, until today, deleted him on WeChat in the morning. And by afternoon he became my fiancé. The world is just too targeted against me. So mad I downed the red wine. Charles came over in his suit and tie. "You and my sister don't have any feelings for each other, so I guess the engagement is off." He clinked glasses casually with Simon, and the sister he mentioned must be Ophelia. Simon tapped the rim of his glass lightly with his fingertips, but instead winked at me. "No, I have feelings for her. The engagement can proceed." Charles followed his gaze, turned to see it was me, and instantly his expression went blank before looking back at Simon. "Which of my sisters are you trying to hit on?" Simon, completely oblivious, gestured toward me with his chin, his smile growing even more pronounced. "You don't know, Charles. She's..." A sharp, piercing alarm sounded in my mind. Code red. This is it. Simon's about to expose me. Charles doesn't know I have 2 phones yet. Ahem, cough cough. I grabbed Charles's arm and suddenly bent over, coughing violently, my face turning bright red. Charles naturally took my empty glass and handed me his suit handkerchief. "Simon, go on," Simon said. "She is..." I coughed even louder. Cough, 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 cough. I covered my mouth with a handkerchief and coughed violently, feeling like my lungs were about to be hacked out. When I finally stopped, I realized Simon and Charles had long fallen silent, both quietly turning their gaze toward me. Maybe I should go to the hospital. Could one of you drive me there? I needed to separate the 2 of them first. Charles looked down at me with his arm linked in mine. Simon folded his arms, scrutinizing me from left to right, then suddenly spoke. "She's my ex-girlfriend." Cough, cough, cough. He speaks incredibly fast, and my coughing is no use anymore. Simon tilted his chin up and scoffed. "Tisk, do you even need to go to the hospital?" I patted my chest lightly and said, "Finally coughed up that phlegm." Charles coldly pulled his arm away, grabbed the back of my neck, and yanked me from a hunched-over ape into an upright walk. He looked at me expressionlessly, his eyes slightly narrowed, his voice suddenly turning cold. "So, he's the one you said was more generous than me, your ex-boyfriend." I quickly took over the conversation. "I swear from now on, I'll check every message 3 times before sending it." Simon sized up Charles, frowning hesitantly. "Older than you, probably not." As Charles said this, his gaze flickered downward. It was Simon's lower body that was being scanned. I almost immediately coughed twice, secretly jabbing his waist with my elbow. Who looks at another man's body like that? Simon had already turned away, the back of his shirt hanging loosely. He had one hand resting casually at his waist while the other leisurely selected a drink. Who would have thought that Miss Smith would mention me to her family just one day after returning? He turned and handed me a glass of water. "So, does this count as fate now?" He clinked his glass against my palm. "What do you think? Should we arrange for the broken mirror to be mended?" I gripped the water glass and took an awkward sip, mainly because there was a gaze beside me, sharp enough to pierce right through. Charles stood firmly in front of me. He was talking to Simon. "I don't think that's necessary. She just said you're generous." That's indeed one of my strengths." Simon held the red wine glass with 2 fingers, swaying it gently in a good mood. Charles lifted his eyes coldly. "Simon, if you broke up, doesn't that mean you weren't right for each other?" "We weren't right before, but now we are." Charles was about to say something. Simon lowered his head with a wry smile and clinked his glass. Bro, don't meddle in young couples' affairs. Just wait for the wedding wine. I should be able to win your sister back. This time, I was genuinely drinking water and choked hard on it. Charles held his wine glass expressionlessly, his knuckles stiff as if frozen. Simon brushed past me, smiling faintly and winking. I think I was your first love. I really wanted to beg him to stop talking. Charles was gripping his wine glass so hard it might shatter. My mind was in chaos, as if lagging half a beat behind, and I took 2 or 3 steps back. Ah. Is someone calling me? I should go now. The banquet was still a success. The grand display of my return was fully realized, and even my fiancé was very pleased with me. This made Ophelia stomp her feet repeatedly in anger. It wasn't until Charles pulled me into the room with an expressionless face. Only then did Ophelia cheer up. Humph, let's see you bully me now. My brother won't let you off. When I finally settle things with that man, I'll definitely take Ophelia to the hospital for a checkup. Charles loosened his tie and leaned back on the sofa, stretching his long legs out. He pulled me by the waist and sat me on his lap. Tell me, do you think he can win you over, Lydia? He spread open my palm and idly played with my fingers. Is this your first love? Is first love fun? I really wanted to listen to him attentively, but sitting on his lap wasn't very stable, so I could only secretly tiptoe to balance myself. I'm asking you a question. The tip of his leather shoe lightly brushed against mine, kicking off my high heels, suddenly losing support. Huh, what? I couldn't help but exclaim softly. I was about to fall forward, so I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck, a strong arm tightly wrapped around my waist. Are you asking me if Simon is fun? How should I put this? Is Simon fun? Simon is your typical rich playboy, quite famous back in school. At any party he attends, even if he just shows up briefly, he'll pick up the tab. He seems sociable, but his sense of burnout is particularly strong. He loves to catch up on sleep with his eyes closed in lively private rooms, resting his arm behind me and lightly placing it on my waist. Are you really reminiscing now? Charles narrowed his eyes, exuding a dangerous aura. He's not fun, quite boring, I said with sincere tone. Simon was too aloof in that relationship, always maintaining a sense of detachment. Even when I finally confronted him, he didn't say much. Just casually wrote a check, holding the multi-million-dollar check. I realized belatedly, as if waking from a dream, I'm dating an extremely wealthy boyfriend, and it's not exactly a conventional relationship. He's never introduced me to his real social circle, those gatherings where he couldn't possibly hide away to sleep. Later, when I met Charles again, I embarked on this path of being a kept woman. Charles's complexion improved slightly. Simon is quite a scheming person. You should reject the engagement with him as soon as possible. Huh? I was puzzled. Charles reached down, grabbed my calf, and placed it on his lap. Back then, I had just returned to the country and heard that Simon had been supporting a woman. He kept it very secret and later completely cut off all contact, but he still transferred money to her for no reason. Isn't that strange? I fell silent. Is this about me? It really seems to be about me, damn it. I lowered my head and fidgeted with my hands. Strange, maybe it's just love. Charles chuckled and lightly tapped my forehead. What love? How childish. 9 times out of 10, he has a secret child. I met his gaze, touched my forehead with my fingers, and awkwardly forced a smile. Heaven help me, don't let him find out that woman is me. Charles grew tense under my gaze. The light from the floor lamp fell on his profile. He looked down at me, his sharp Adam's apple bobbing slightly. You need to reject him as soon as possible, even if it's just a nominal engagement. I don't want to cuckold him, at least not yet. His choice of words was very cautious. He just wasn't ready yet. It's not that he couldn't, but that he didn't want to. At least not yet. The implication was clear. Hurry up, I'm already mentally preparing myself. I immediately sat up straight. I understand. I'll do it as soon as possible. I won't, I'll just keep dragging it out. Ruining both sides until I regain my freedom. Charles held my back. Studying my expression, he suddenly uttered a mysterious sentence. Seriously, about that WeChat message, between him and me, who do you think is more? For a moment, my mind went blank. Near the summit of Q Mountain, clusters of white villas stood. To the unaware, this place might be mistaken for a luxury residential area, but in reality, it's an exclusive private club. Simon and I are having a date here, today. He's dressed in all white, white V-neck shirt, loose white suit, The pants have excellent drape. Walking through this lush green mountain scenery, he looked like a groom in wedding photography. Have to admit, Simon's appearance is truly impeccable. The glass house by the cliff, with mountain breezes constantly blowing in. Simon's bangs were tousled by the wind. You were coughing so violently yesterday. He lazily scrolled through his phone. What? Is dating me something to be ashamed of? I was taking photos of the mountain scenery. Are you afraid of being found out by someone, Charles? Simon rested his elbows on the table. I always feel like you two are very close. I was pressing the shutter button when my phone shook, and the photo turned out blurry. Not really. Maybe it's just because I was recently found. Charles is just a doting brother. He takes good care of Ophelia too. My phone screen was still on Charles's WeChat page. The photo I just took was sent to him. Charles is very strict. You even have to report to him before going out. But his reply was simple. Looks good. I'm in a meeting. It's all blurry. And you still say it looks good. How insincere. The thought of Charles brings to mind that strange question he asked me last night. I lowered my head closer to the glass straw, pretending to sip my drink, while unconsciously glancing at Simon's face. I can't remember his size anymore. I really can't compare them. Simon put down his phone, lifted his eyelids, and glanced at me. Miss Smith, what are you thinking about? Caught red-handed with my mind in the gutter. I was drinking water and choked again, coughing with my head down. Damn it, I'm going to cough myself to death one of these days. One hand pulls over a tissue and gently brings it to my lips. My ex-boyfriend was actually quite gentle. Wipe it yourself, or do you want me to wipe it for you? I don't know if my mind is foggy, but those words sound really weird. I covered my mouth with a tissue and guiltily stole a glance at him. Simon propped his forehead on his hand, slightly raising an eyebrow with a shameless smile. You were the one who fantasized about me first. His words made me cough even more violently in anger. Simon's dating experience was truly wonderful. The gleaming commemorative edition piano was carefully moved onto the lawn. The atmosphere was already perfect. Simon sat there with a serious expression, his fingers moving lightly across the keys, now slow, now fast. He was playing Prelude in C-sharp minor, a famous piece by Rachmaninoff. How do you think I played? We walked side by side, carefree, pretty good. Even someone who doesn't understand piano could tell. It was both a show of wealth and skill. Simon shook his head with a light laugh. My date plans are tailored to the other person's taste. Well, that's a problem. My taste is really low. I only understand luxury brands. I chuckled and looked up at him calmly. And things like checks. Just as I thought. Ex-girlfriends really hold grudges. Simon walked ahead of me without looking back. I shrugged indifferently. Just saying, do I even count as an ex-girlfriend? The wind swept across the vast grassland, rustling the canopy tied with colorful ribbons. We kept moving forward. The further we went, the emptier it became. We arrived at the shooting range. There aren't many outdoor ranges in the country, but this one is official, and the view is quite open. Simon started picking out the equipment. After a while, he turned to look at me and continued the previous topic with a smile. Perfect for you to vent your frustrations about your ex-boyfriend. Well, I really do feel like playing. I casually picked a long one that looked nice. Simon stood behind me, telling me to stand up straight, press your shoulder firmly and keep a steady grip. He told me not to get distracted and to aim carefully. I stared at him and asked, "Hey, do you know how to take photos?" I took out my phone, adjusted the filter, thought for a moment, and then took off my jacket as well. Inside was a silk camisole with a deep backless cut, adorned with a knotted silk detail at the back. This will make for better photos. Simon gave me a look of exasperation. Just to show off your figure, is that it? I nodded. Yeah, we took a few staged photos first before actually starting to play. Bang, bang, the recoil was stronger than expected. Every time I pull the trigger, I end up bumping into Simon behind me. After firing more than a dozen rounds, Simon clears his throat with a fist and reaches out to brace my back, as if guarding against something. But he doesn't push too hard, and I still end up leaning back into his arms. He takes the opportunity to wrap an arm around my waist, lowering his head to catch his breath quickly. Both of them were extremely awkward. I looked straight ahead, pretending to be composed. Aren't you going to let go? But I could feel his presence behind my waist, and my earlobes instantly burned with heat. Wait a moment. He buried his face even lower, his voice hoarser. Just wait a while, it'll go down on its own. So we just waited like that. An eerie silence fell. Having nothing better to do, I lowered my head to look. though I couldn't see clearly yet, was suddenly covered by someone's large hand over my eyes. Do you even know what respect is? I stayed silent for a long moment, then laughed. No idea, but you're certainly showing me plenty of it. Simon, maybe you should stop wearing white pants when you go out. The silence was broken by the continuous sound of camera shutters. Ophelia appeared not far away. She took off her sunglasses, holding her phone. Her fingers never stopping. Humph, Lydia, I caught you seducing my fiancé. I'm sending these photos to my brother. I took a moment to react. Who was her brother again? It's Charles. I'm going to go die now. Simon let go of me, his voice calm. Miss Smith, our engagement was never officially arranged. Unfortunately, Ophelia has a screw loose and never listens to others. She put on her sunglasses and strutted arrogantly. My brother replied. He said he's coming right over. My WeChat also chimed. Charles forwarded the photo to me. On a date. I typed a few words in the chat box. You're in a meeting. I'm on a date. Aren't we just perfect? Still deleted it. Charles is a CEO who burns the candle at both ends. With nothing better to do, I'd better not bother him while he's working. Simon draped his coat over my shoulders. It's fine. Ophelia is just like that. There's nothing between us. I believe you. Because the problem lies with me. I can't take in anything anymore. Charles is on his way. Simon's date isn't over yet. He took me horseback riding at the ranch. I was helped onto that gentle pony and slowly walked around the arena. Simon stood outside the fence and dutifully took photos of me. As fate would have it, I ran into Ophelia again. She was riding a chestnut-colored horse, moving with remarkable steadiness as she trotted briskly around the ring. Ophelia started taking horseback riding lessons at the age of 6 and even passed graded exams in Australia. I tightened the reins, staying in place, watching her figure. A sense of loss welled up from deep within. I waved at the instructor, loosened the stirrups, and prepared to dismount. Ophelia happened to ride past on her horse. The pony must have gotten nervous and suddenly reared out of control, throwing me to the ground. Simon rushed over in a panic. Ophelia came over too and whispered to me, "Are you okay?" Fortunately, the injury wasn't serious, just a sprained foot, but I can't walk anymore, I said helplessly, sitting on the ground. Simon scooped me up in his arms. The mountain scenery gradually darkened. The parking spot is quite far, about a 30-minute walk. The downhill path is even harder to navigate. Simon, can you carry me and make it there? Simon's chest vibrated as he let out a breathy laugh. I just can't carry you anymore, but I can't leave you here either. I looked up at Simon. Haven't you ever left someone behind? As he walked, he looked down at me and after a long pause said, I really can't carry you anymore. I was left stranded by the roadside. Simon, be a decent human being. He looked down at me, his tone light and airy, but my hands are too tired. I froze for a moment, then lowered my head. Get lost, get lost. He slowly crouched down. Let me carry you on my back instead. The mountain path twisted and turned, with streetlights strung along it. Under the lights, our shadows stretched long, then shrank again. I wrapped my arms around Simon's neck, my toes idly swaying. You seem to have many talents I never knew before. He responded softly, plenty, all to make my fiancé happy. We fell silent again along the way, until Simon came to a stop. The night was darkest halfway up the mountain. Resting my head on his shoulder, I gazed into the distance. A tall man in a tailored suit leaned against the Maybach's door. The car's headlights and taillights flickered on at that moment. Charles emerged from the light. He extended his hands toward Simon. Had enough of carrying him. Hand him over to me. Simon looked at me in astonishment. What on earth is he angry about? Charles fixed me with a sharp gaze. Tell him what I'm angry about. There's always a way out when you reach the mountain's base. I caught Charles's gaze and leaned slightly closer to Simon's ear, whispering to him in an extremely low voice. You don't understand. That's how brother complexes are. Before marriage, you'll need to keep your distance from me when he's around. It'll be fine once we become family. Simon frowned upon hearing this but still set me down, suppressing the wild pounding in my chest. I shot Simon a meaningful look. Aren't you going to promise him? Simon said indifferently. Fine, I'll keep my distance from your sister. Charles pulled me close to him. That's more like it. He pretended to scoop me up in his arms. Simon widened his eyes. I took the opportunity to link arms with Charles. No need, brother. I can walk these few steps myself. Charles took me back home. I sat on the dark gray sofa with a first aid kit at my feet. Charles knelt before me, nearly in a single kneeling position. ready to tend to my wounds. Did you have fun on your date today? He grabbed my ankle. It was great. Simon can do so many things. He plays the piano, teaches me shooting, and even rides horses. He lifted his head, cutting me off. Enough, I can do all those things too. I stopped mid-sentence and paused. But you never took me out to play. Charles lowered his head, applying medicine in circular motions with his fingertips. I'm just busy with work. I picked out two of the best-looking photos from those Simon had taken. It's okay, I had Simon take photos, and I've sent them to you. Charles's phone wasn't nearby. As soon as he reached up, I instinctively handed him my phone. They made you look quite handsome, he said with a slight smirk, studying them for a moment. But why? In Ophelia's photos, he's holding you, maybe. It's just the angle. Charles tilted his head slightly, glanced at me, and raised his phone. You didn't add him on WeChat. I froze for a moment, swallowing lightly. I asked you to look at the photos. Why are you checking my phone? Charles laughed in frustration. He stopped talking to me. The tension reached its peak. The room suddenly echoed with the vibration of a phone. My heart skipped a beat, and I shuddered. Charles held onto the ankle without letting go. He stared at the phone screen for a quiet moment, then casually placed it on the coffee table. It's not this one. I was almost scared to death. I still have another phone. I didn't dare to answer it at all. But that damn vibration wouldn't stop. I clenched my eyes shut, praying Simon wouldn't call again. Otherwise, I'm done for. Amidst the endless vibrations, Charles and I sat in silence, until my ankle was tightly grasped. Charles lifted his eyelids to look at me, his voice rising several pitches as he suppressed his anger. Were you waiting for me to answer? No, I'll answer right away. My heart skipped a beat. I took my phone out of the bag. It was indeed Simon. Charles looked at me expressionlessly, put it on speaker. I took a deep breath and turned on the speakerphone. Simon asked me to send him the photos I took today. No need, the ones you took aren't good. Ouch. Charles was lowering his head to apply medicine to me, but he suddenly exerted force, making me cry out in pain. I covered my phone. It hurts. Be gentler. Charles looked up at me, continuing to apply pressure with his hand. It really hurt. I cried out, in pain, and kicked Charles in the chest with my foot. He groaned twice from my kick but still refused to let go of my ankle. Simon was silent for a moment. What are you doing? I forgot. With the speaker on, the sound couldn't be muffled. Nothing. Charles and I were just, medicine. I hadn't even finished saying the word, medicine. Simon hung up the phone. Charles stood up to put the first aid kit back. I hugged my legs tightly, sitting on the sofa, wincing in pain. I took a photo of my ankle and sent it to Simon on WeChat, explaining that I was really just applying medicine earlier. Ophelia happened to come back from outside. You see, brother really doesn't like you. Even a fool like me could tell. Ophelia didn't care about her fiancé at all, but was very concerned about this brother. Charles appeared behind her at just the right moment. Ophelia, you hurt someone and won't even apologize. Ophelia had bumped into him at his worst moment. Brother, I didn't mean to. Ever since Lydia returned, you've been targeting her. You startled her horse just to show off your riding skills. Otherwise, would Simon have had to carry her down the mountain? Ophelia thought for a while, then obediently apologized to me. Only then did Charles calmly speak to Ophelia. Ophelia, even with one more person in the family, it won't affect the love you receive. I lowered my head to massage my ankle, involuntarily listening to their conversation. Why is Charles so much gentler with Ophelia? Ophelia left awkwardly. I want to leave too. As I passed by Charles, he grabbed my wrist. Stop right there. He tightened his grip subtly. How long has this thing between you and Simon been going on? I turned my head to look at him, making a swearing gesture. I swear to heaven, I really, truly never cheated on you. If you don't believe me, you can investigate, at most. I just scammed Simon out of some money, so you used two phones to contact him behind my back. He looked at me coldly, but I was the one who maintained contact with Simon first. After a long silence, I let out a drawn-out, "Oh," and picked up the first phone. Lydia. His voice carried a warning tone. Yeah, added. I showed him my phone. What do you mean? Charles glanced at it. What do I mean, Charles? I already broke up with you long ago. It was you who threatened me, not letting me end it. I want to cut ties with the past, to be the young lady of the Smith family. I want to be like Ophelia. You never treated me like a proper lady, and I'm exhausted dealing with you. I forcefully shook off his hand and ran upstairs. Charles's voice came from behind. Dealing with me is exhausting. But going on a date with Simon is fun. I stopped on the stairs without turning to look at him. Simon, at least he treats me like a real young lady. I met Simon again at a nightclub. Since I had just had a fight with Charles, I took my friends out to have some fun. We were definitely going to enjoy things we couldn't afford before. Now that we're rich, we must never forget our sisters. Simon was wearing sunglasses and a loose, all-black shirt, being ushered forward by a few people. We bumped into each other in the hallway outside the private room. At first, I thought it was some minor celebrity caught in a scandal. He called out to me first, "Young miss, out for fun?" He took off his sunglasses and smirked slightly. "Get them 2 top-tier escorts." Turns out, the most exclusive nightclub was part of the Castro family's business empire. I thought Simon was just talking big. After all, even if I wasn't his fiancée anymore, I was still his ex-girlfriend at the very least. But he wasn't kidding. After a while, 2 male models walked in, and they were absolutely top-tier, handsome, talented at singing and dancing, calling everyone sister, and delivering maximum emotional value. Of course, they were also experts at opening bottles. Tens of thousands worth of wine spilled all over me, just in time to see 8 well-defined abs through the white shirt. I silently took out my card. "Charge it." "Wow, sis. You're so cool. This feels quite happy." When the bill reached over 9 million, the nightclub manager reminded me that the card's limit was almost reached. Impossible. How could I only have 10 million? Damn, I used the wrong credit card. I was swiping the supplementary card that Charles had previously given me for living expenses. "Sis, is there a problem?" I blinked with a smile. "No, no big deal. Sis will just use a different card." By 10 p.m., Charles got off work and came to catch me. My friend wisely ran away. In this tense atmosphere of catching an affair, my hands were still randomly groping for abs. Charles was sitting on the nearby sofa watching. I wanted to provoke him even more. "Brother, are you just going to stand there and watch? What if I take it out?" Charles leaned forward, opening a bottle of wine in his hands. "I'll call the police." His words left me speechless. My breath caught in my throat. "What gives you the right to arrest me? Can't I take them out for barbecue?" Charles took off his wristwatch and tossed it to the male model on his left, then pulled out a black card and flicked it to the one on his right. "You two, get out." The 2 male models didn't even bother calling me sister anymore. They pushed past me and ran out, making sure to close the door behind them. Charles is indeed wealthy. No wonder he goes to work every day. He inherited all the James family's businesses and also took over many of our Smith family's enterprises. Because Ophelia completely refuses to take over, Charles picked up a glass of wine and walked toward me. He half sat on the edge of the table cluttered with liquor bottles. It was the spot where that male model had been sitting earlier. He took off his suit jacket, revealing a fitted shirt, and began loosening his tie with one hand. I swallowed lightly. "What are you trying to do?" Charles pressed the wine glass into my palm. He looked down at me, tilting his chin slightly. "Go on. How do you like to play?" "Pour it on me." Boring. He thought anyone could make a living as a male model. I was just about to turn away. My wrist was caught by this person, lifted high above my shoulder. The wine in the glass instantly poured down Charles's neck. The soaked shirt clung to his body, revealing every contour of his muscles. His physique is really much better than male models. Charles grabbed my hand to make me touch, then suddenly leaned back, making the wine table clatter loudly. I glared at him in annoyance. "Seriously, after just one drink, you can't even stand steady." Charles looked down at me, his Adam's apple bobbing slightly as he pursed his lips and made a vague sound. "It's not. I haven't done this before. It's just a bit cold." I froze for a moment, then turned my head away. My heart was racing strangely. This person is truly cut out for this line of work. Charles lowered his eyes. Aren't you going to pay?" "You're too late. The money's all gone." "I'm not paying a cent." He loosely wrapped his arm around my waist, panting softly by my ear. "Your husband has money in his coat pocket. Go grab it." He even gave my butt a light pat. Speechless is my mother tongue. There's real money in the suit jacket, a stack of crisp new bills. Charles bites his lip and raises an eyebrow. "Go ahead, throw it at me." Perhaps everyone in this world dreams of getting something for nothing. Even a wealthy CEO who attends meetings every day. I threw the banknotes at Charles's face. 2 of them were quite considerate. Sticking to his face, Charles bit onto one of the bills, raising his eyes to stare straight at me. The atmosphere of reckless extravagance was instantly captured. I pinch his chin between my fingers, lightly shaking a small roll of cash in my hand. Big brother, can I put it somewhere else? Charles chuckles softly, leaning back to sit firmly. Spreading his long legs wide, my face burns with embarrassment. But I steel myself and take 2 steps forward, haven't even had time to reach out. A strong arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me off the ground. He pulled me onto his lap, sitting me on one of his thighs. Charles raised an eyebrow at me, then opened his mouth slightly and spat it out. Baby, had enough fun. He took the initiative back. Boring. I turned my head away. I sat through a 4-hour meeting just to play male model and cheer up the young miss, and you still say it's boring. Charles took my hand and made me feel his abs. Babe, you turned down Simon's marriage proposal, so you can play with me however you want. This guy is totally playing me, and I'm completely falling for it. I just love being played by him. In the dim and ambiguous private room, a half beam of light seeped in. Someone let out a long, sarcastic, tisk sound. I say, in our country, siblings aren't supposed to play like this, right? That person stood with arms crossed, leaning against the doorway. Charles. You drove my people away and now you're hitting on my fiancé here. Charles smoothly put on his jacket. Are you two even engaged? He pulled me into his arms. I'm her legitimate boyfriend. Simon looked at me indifferently. He says he's your boyfriend. Did you hear that? I paused for a moment. I vaguely heard a bit. Judging by the current situation, it should be true. Charles grabbed my waist. Don't give me trouble. Speak properly. Yes, right. He's that boyfriend of mine, a proper boyfriend. Our relationship is quite stable, and, well, that's about it. I broke out in a cold sweat. Simon gritted his teeth and smiled. Boyfriend, 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 huh, boyfriend. Charles turned to look at me. How long is he going to keep repeating that? I took a deep breath. Simon, what if we just call off our engagement? Simon let out a mocking laugh. Forget it, seems more like jumping the gun to me. He sized up Charles. Just a boyfriend, who hasn't been one. Charles locked eyes with him. After a long pause, he frowned, shook his head, and let out a soft, tsk, Simon, you really have a problem. I suspect you're the one who corrupted Lydia. Charles, you. Simon was so angry he couldn't even speak. Charles took my hand and walked past Simon without even glancing at him. Simon, if you insist on being like this, don't mind your fiancé coming home with me. Simon chased after him and cursed. Charles, you're the one with the problem. I followed Charles, pretending not to hear. When I got home, said goodnight to Charles, and jumped into my bedroom bed. WeChat was flooded with messages from Simon. Missy, I connect with you heart to heart. And you play mind games with me. You call this a siscon. I'm straight up getting hard controlled by your boyfriend. If you dare to sleep with him tonight, I swear I'll cut ties with you. Break up with him already. I'll even hook you up with some male models. This is so annoying. I replied to the last message. No. Simon made several voice calls. I didn't answer any of them. After a while, Charles sent a message. Simon might be drunk. He kept calling me frantically asking what I was up to. Remember to block him. I was completely speechless. Simon's message popped up instantly. Not with him, and not replying to me either. I'm coming tomorrow to finalize the marriage. Everything's in chaos. A little chaos is good. The 3 of them can turn into a complete mess. The next day, Simon actually showed up at the door. He came to discuss the engagement arrangements. He also gave me a pink-purple sports car, a matching pair with his 911. At that time, my family was still having breakfast. Charles was just about to leave for work. Uncle Smith, Lydia just got back and still needs time to adjust to the new environment. That's right, Dad, Mom, I'm not ready to get engaged yet. I continued for him. My father disagreed. No, Simon is a good boy. This engagement needs to happen as soon as possible. Simon walked up behind me with a smile, placing his hands on the back of my chair. It's okay. We'll take our time getting to know each other after the engagement. My mother nodded in agreement, adding, it would be best to arrange the engagement for Ophelia and Charles as well. What did you say? I was utterly shocked, putting down my chopsticks. Charles wasn't surprised at all, casually putting on his jacket with a rather resigned tone. Aunt Linda, I told you years ago, I really don't have those feelings for Ophelia. Ophelia put down her knife and fork, and ran out crying. My mom remained seated, calmly continuing her breakfast. Charles, your Uncle Smith and I raised you all these years, and this is the only thing we've ever asked of you. Charles sighed and looked at everyone present. I'll go after her now. No one is allowed to get engaged until I return. Simon let out a derisive snort. My thoughts were inexplicably in turmoil. Mom, let's talk. We were catching the breeze on the rooftop balcony. Mom, why did you arrange for Ophelia and Charles to get engaged? My mom said Ophelia has low intelligence and emotional quotient. And a bad personality to boot. Proper wealthy families wouldn't look at her. Charles has no parents but is responsible. He'll take good care of Ophelia. So, you've already made plans for Ophelia, I said, unable to hide my disappointment. We considered you too. Isn't Simon good enough for you? I deliberately probed. But haven't you heard? Simon used to keep a mistress. My mother dismissed it casually. Then you can rest assured. Simon has always known his limits since childhood. He would never make you feel the slightest discomfort. The wind from the rooftop rushed into the balcony, chilling me to the core. It seems the bloodline of the lost true heiress ultimately couldn't compare to the fake heiress who was raised before their eyes. I was a baby left at the orphanage doorstep, most likely. Ophelia's birth mother swapped me with her own daughter and didn't even want to raise me. I should have been pampered into Ophelia's temperament, though perhaps a bit duller than I am now. I should have grown up with Charles as childhood sweethearts, and might have even married Simon without a hitch. Mom, be honest with me, do you really think Simon is better than Charles? Don't you think Ophelia is naive and that I'm the one with more thoughts? Lydia, how could you think that? You're my own daughter. Of course I'd save the best for you. My mother turned to look at me. The shock in her eyes seemed genuine. Charles is good, but he's an orphan. Look how busy he is with work every day. The James family alone will keep him occupied for half his life. When Ophelia marries him later, half of the Smith family will be his too. He carries too much responsibility. He's not suitable as a husband, but as a brother, he's very reliable. What about Simon? My mother leaned back against the railing, closing her eyes to enjoy the breeze, her expression relaxed and content. Simon is the late-born child of the Castro family, wealthy, handsome, and carefree. Though he won't inherit the family business, the money he has is enough to last 5 generations. The Castro family keeps a much lower profile these days. The year the old man passed, the inheritance division made national headlines. Simon was only 3 but got a hefty share of cold, hard cash, of course. He couldn't touch anything else. My mother turned her head to look at me. But you don't understand the inside story. Simon isn't favored by the current head of the Castro family, which is why he was pushed into an arranged marriage from a young age. While the other children were sent abroad, he was kept in the country for his education. We've watched him grow up since kindergarten. The best thing about Simon is his exceptionally good temperament. As she spoke, she raised her eyebrows, her eyes gleaming. He only secretly dated one girlfriend in college. And as soon as there was a whisper in the circle, Simon broke it off. These days, it's hard to find a wealthy heir with absolutely no rebellious streak. They're as rare as hen's teeth, my mom, but I'm the girlfriend standing right in front of you. Let me just add one more thing. Simon is the typical rich but powerless type. Very compliant with arranged marriages. If you really marry him, with Charles backing you up. My mother covered her mouth with her hand and coughed awkwardly. I'd guess. Of course I'm not encouraging it, but he probably wouldn't mind if you played around outside, as long as you didn't bring it home. I've been silent for a long time. This time the identification is correct. It's definitely my real mom. From the parents' perspective, Simon is a rare good son-in-law. As for Charles, don't think he's honest either. I found out he's also keeping a woman, hidden so tightly it must mean something. But if Ophelia marries him, she'd never find out in this lifetime. Sigh, this is what you call a perfect match. Mom, you really understand what a perfect match is, I said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Lydia, think about it. Even though he's the CEO, he works from 9 to 9, sometimes without weekends off. If he were to have a mistress on top of that, what normal person could put up with him? My mom, but I'm that mistress, standing right in front of you. My mom kicked me out of the house. She told me and Simon to pick a good date for the engagement. Simon picked up the car keys, ready to take me for a test drive. Perhaps it was just bad luck. Every intersection we approached, the light turned red. Simon rested his hand on the window frame, glancing at me casually. Why don't you want to get engaged to me? Your mom must have told you about me. Right, I gripped the steering wheel, keeping my eyes fixed on the road ahead. My fingers unconsciously tightened. Just one question. If I weren't the eldest daughter of the Smith family, would you still marry me? Simon leans back into the seat, casually resting his hands behind his head. I knew it, that's what you're here for. He tilted his head to the left, lifting his gaze to meet mine with profound intensity. His voice carried an overwhelming weariness. Why does it have to be like this? When you liked me, I was already like this. What do you want from me? I pulled over to the side of the road. Simon sat in the passenger seat, casually turning his head to look at me. Are you kicking me out of the car? I pushed open the passenger door. Yes, get out. I left Simon outside the third ring road. When I drove into the underground garage, I noticed Charles's car was already parked. He and Ophelia had returned. Ophelia fell into the water. Charles furrowed his brow with concern as he watched the doctor administer her 4-drip. Lydia, I'll talk to her when she wakes up. By the time it grew dark, I wanted to step out onto the balcony for some air, only to unexpectedly come across 2 intimate figures. It was Ophelia holding Charles. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, probably crying. Charles didn't embrace her, his hands hanging naturally at his sides, slightly bowing his head as if saying something. I turned away and leaned against the wall. Must be sibling affection, right? I walked along the garden path, wrapping my knitted shawl tighter, kicking small pebbles as I went. This is a luxury neighborhood where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. Built against the mountain, the wind here is quite strong. When a single roof tile falls and hits the ground, the sound alone seems to cost tens of thousands. But I didn't feel a sense of belonging, tonight especially. Until that slender figure blocked my light, I kicked the pebble away. Charles, get away from me. The man paused slightly, wrapped his arm around my waist, and pinned me against the corner rockery. I walked all the way back from the third ring road, and you didn't even glance at me. Just thinking about your boyfriend. I had mistaken him. It was Simon who had returned. Young Master Simon, can't even hail a cab. Simon looked at me speechlessly, leaning in so close he was practically on top of me. Miss Smith, you sure know how to kick hard. I didn't even grab my phone, driving without checking the rearview mirror. Huh, I chased you for 2 miles. I let out a quiet laugh. Simon listlessly let go of me. He casually sat on the edge of the flower bed, carelessly stretching out his long legs, leaning back on his hands, and raising an eyebrow at me. If you're willing to massage my legs, I'll let this matter drop with you. I silently sat down beside him. The atmosphere was unusually quiet. Simon turned his head to look at me and winked. Come here, I have something to tell you. I casually moved closer to him. He unexpectedly reached out, pressed the back of my neck, and swiftly planted a kiss on my forehead. I pushed him away. What are you doing? Simon just smiled. Doing something bad that benefits me. What? My fingers touched the spot on my forehead. He pursed his lips, tilted his head, and raised an eyebrow at me. Your boyfriend saw it. I followed his gaze. Charles stood under the tree. Simon and I are really getting engaged. My mom can't handle Charles and Ophelia, so she puts all her energy into pushing for my engagement. She's scouting castles worldwide, hiring designers for custom dresses, and booking top-tier bands. Charles has seen me at home a few times but doesn't speak to me. Later, he moved into the company. I don't know if this counts as a breakup. WeChat had already explained it to him. That night, Simon deliberately kissed him in front of others. Charles didn't reply to me either. These 3 months passed by quickly. Tomorrow is the day of the engagement. Simon's face appeared in the mirror. He placed his hands on either side of the chair, leaning his upper body forward, enveloping me completely in his embrace. Yet, he only looked at me through the mirror. Even if you hadn't been the eldest daughter of the Smith family back then, I had thought about secretly taking care of you for a lifetime. I softly responded with a quiet Simon curved his lips slightly, lowering his gaze as his voice softened. Seriously, after we get engaged, let's start over. Seriously, I paused, deliberately teasing, but my mom said you don't mind. Simon reacted swiftly, flicking my forehead lightly with his finger. Don't listen to Auntie's nonsense. I lowered my head with a smile and said, oh. He patted my shoulder lightly and added the second half of his sentence. I arranged those male models for you because I was afraid you'd act recklessly on your own. I've already talked to both of them. Even if you just go for barbecue, you won't be able to take them out. Simon took me back to my room. After entering, he checked the wardrobe, bedroom, balcony, and even under the bed. I leaned drowsily against the bathroom door, half asleep. Master Simon, really? Is this how you treat your devoted fiancé? Simon stopped in front of me, scrutinizing me repeatedly with a meaningful glint in his eyes. Miss Smith, based on my experience in climbing the social ladder, it's absolutely necessary. He's not that kind of person. I chuckled softly. Simon remained noncommittal. Who knows? He wrapped his arms around my waist, slowly lowering his head before raising his eyes to meet mine. Actually, I'd like to stay tonight. The hand on my back pressed me even tighter. Perhaps it's safer this way. I maintained my smile. Simon, if you don't even trust me, how can we go far together? After a while, Simon let go of me, his tone tinged with regret. Forget it, tomorrow night then. I walked to the door and watched Simon leave, locked the door and headed to the bathroom. Charles, are you crazy? How could you be this kind of person? Charles curled up in the bathtub. He stared at me expressionlessly. How could I know you're so skilled at this without changing my perspective? What have you been doing these past 3 months? You didn't even reply to my WeChat messages. I thought you'd broken up with me. He stepped out of the bathtub, lifting his foot. Does it make any difference to you? I was momentarily speechless, closing my eyes briefly. Are you here to pick a fight? Charles pursed his lips coldly. What have I been doing these past 3 months? Working overtime with the team to push the project forward. He kept advancing step by step, forcing me to retreat. He seduced my girlfriend. Did you expect me to let him have a peaceful engagement? My lower back pressed against the bathroom counter. Charles, I had nowhere left to retreat. Stop being crazy, will you? So I'm being crazy, huh? Charles placed one hand on my waist and reached for his phone with the other. I'll call him right now and tell him I'm in his fiancée's room. I reached out to grab the phone. Charles leaned back, pulling his hand away, his voice cold and deep. Lydia, you've got some nerve, daring to snatch it. I braced my hands behind me, tilted my head back, and kicked at him. You didn't push Ophelia away when she hugged you, but you're making such a fuss over him just kissing your forehead. Charles suddenly sighed and put his phone down on the counter. Ophelia, I rejected her. She only sees me as a brother. It's just that after you came back, she felt like she lost her place, so she wanted to marry me. He brushed aside the sweat-dampened hair from my forehead with his fingertips. Lydia, what are you thinking? Everyone likes you more, especially me. I lowered my head, staring at my toes, but I'm not sure. Charles grabbed my calves and lifted me up, placing me on the bathroom counter. Then I'm even less sure. Lydia, do you like me more? Or the person you're getting engaged to tomorrow? Charles reached out and gripped my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. I remained silent for a brief moment. Even if I do prefer you more, but I'm going to get engaged to Simon. He pressed his fingertip to my lips. That's enough. I stared at him blankly. Why? He curved his lips slightly, his gaze drifting downward. Because he'll be here any moment. Charles picked up the phone that had been placed beside me earlier. The call screen was still on Simon. The call duration had already reached 5 minutes. I froze completely. Charles switched to speakerphone. Simon, did you hear that? She likes me. She was just playing with you. Simon's gloomy voice came through the phone. Lydia, open the door. Say it to my face. Simon came wearing pajamas. Lydia, you better explain yourself clearly. Who exactly were you just playing around with? Simon grabbed my arm and dragged me into the bedroom. If there's no trust, how far can we go? Have I even made it 50 meters? Simon, no, I didn't ask him to come. Charles, say something. Charles leaned against the pillar, arms crossed, watching me without moving a muscle. Just tell him you like me. He wouldn't dare touch you. I looked up to gauge Simon's expression. He lowered his head to stare at me. Come on, give it a try. Try and you'll die. I struggled to speak. Simon, I'm not feeling well. Heart palpitations, dizziness. Simon narrowed his eyes slightly and leaned in closer to me. It's normal because your blood pressure is up. No, I really don't feel well, and I'm a bit nauseous. Charles immediately straightened up and walked toward me, his tone completely serious. Then you might be pregnant with my child. I clenched my fists in anger. Charles, you, see, you're cured now. Full of energy, Charles's thin lips curved slightly as his gaze met Simon's, subtly shielding me behind him. Simon, you're still young. This woman isn't right for you. Simon grabbed my wrist. Charles, I'm getting engaged tomorrow. Let me ask you. Did I invite you? I was speechless. So he didn't even receive an invitation. I'm curious. No. How did you sneak in? Uninvited. Charles remained remarkably composed. I took Ophelia's invitation. I thought Ophelia didn't come because she disliked me. Charles and Simon locked eyes. Simon, don't worry. This engagement of yours won't happen. I'm sleeping at her place tonight. Simon tightened his grip on my wrist. So you're okay with him staying here? is that it? I was a beat slow. Opening my mouth. Well, what? Charles gave me a cold glance, deaf again. He's asking if you agree to him sleeping here. I didn't dare hesitate. I agree. I froze for a moment, then came to my senses and shook my head frantically. No, his phrasing was off. I agreed to let him sleep in another room here. I must truly be ill. My blood pressure is a bit high, and my mind feels sluggish. This suite has 3 bedrooms and a living room, enough space for all 3 of us to sleep. Simon also insisted on staying. He and Charles absolutely had to share the same bed, because each was worried the other might get up in the middle of the night. They spent the whole night keeping a wary eye on each other. No one is allowed to leave the bedroom. I didn't sleep well either. I was packing all night, deep in thought again. I told my mom about the good deeds I did. Mom, I can't hide it anymore. I need to tell you something. Please don't be mad. I used to be a kept woman. And I had 2 high-quality sugar daddies. The very 2 sons-in-law you approved of. Now they're both sleeping next door to me. The engagement is off, and I need to run away. I didn't dare to call, so I sent a voice message instead. My mom is typing. I typed for a long time. I thought she was going to scold me. After a long pause, she replied, "Run, dear Simon. By the time you read this letter, I will already be on my way to the airport. Please forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye. I know that if I saw the 2 of you, I would be doomed, because I can't bear to part with any of you, especially you. The days I spent with you all were the happiest of my life. Although I don't want it to end, new stories must always begin. This is the best ending I could think of. Love, Lydia." Copy it again, change the name, and send it to Charles. This is the hardest copy-paste I've ever done, because Simon's messages keep popping up. You still want the best ending. Do you still love me? Lydia, do you love me? Have I spoiled you too much? Lydia, don't let me find you. I want you to kneel and apologize to me. Forget it. Forwarded directly to Charles. Delete Simon again. Charles replied instantly. Half-hearted much. Can't even change the name. Rushed this time. Will do better next time. After a while, Charles sent another message. Forget it. If you're not engaged to him, it means you still like me. I froze for a moment. He noticed such subtle affection. Don't provoke Simon. He'll get triggered. Then don't delete me. If you don't spam me with messages, I won't delete you. I won't. I have to work. How could I be as free as him? So what is Simon doing now? Oh, he got deleted by someone and is trying to grab my phone. Unbelievable. Delete this too. Milan is really great. No men fighting over me. Plus my mom sends me money. Ophelia still sent me messages. Where are you? Don't be afraid of trouble. I may not welcome you, but you can come home. My brother insisted I explain. We're not in that kind of relationship. Fine. I didn't know you two had something going on. I just wanted to find a place as family at home. Let's get down to business. If you're not driving, can I take the wheel? Not that I'm eager to drive, but mainly because you just left the car keys lying around in the lobby. Her business was borrowing the car. The car's yours. Do me a favor. Keep an eye on Simon and your brother. Remember to hit me up when you're abroad. I sat in the dimly lit front row at the show, wearing oversized sunglasses and a tight miniskirt. The sound of camera shutters and flashes was extremely noisy. In front of me was a top model walking down the runway. To appear sophisticated, I pretentiously picked up my phone to take photos. A message from Ophelia popped up. It seems they're together now. I heard they went to Jinan with their passports a few days ago. Nonsense. How could perfectly normal people turn gay? Besides, why would anyone bring passports to Jinan? I put down my phone. Jinan, Milan. I sprang to my feet. The people on both sides tacitly reached out and forcefully pushed me back into my seat. Miss, instead of finding a proper boyfriend, you're hiding here watching a men's fashion show. I followed the voice and looked to the left. He was wrapped in a black trench coat, pressing down his sunglasses with 2 fingers, revealing tired eyes. Simon let out a light scoff. Your fiancé isn't dead yet. Have you decided where you're going to kneel? I hadn't even had time to process reality yet. A hand with slender fingers reached over beside me. Give me the phone. What's the point of filming an underwear show? I turned my head to look to the right. Charles loosened his tie with one hand, casually beckoning me before snatching my phone. I'm guarding against you like I would a thief now. I bent forward, clutching my chest, and began taking deep breaths, slowly recovering the lost heartbeat. Finally, I rested my hands behind my head, leaned back, and simply gave up. Then let's watch together. If there's anything you like, I'll buy it for you. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.